When we think about health dangers, we often picture something big and scary. But what if one of the biggest risks is hiding in plain sight, right in your medicine cabinet? That's what we're diving into today, how everyday things like food, supplements, and even other medicines can mix in some really powerful and sometimes dangerous ways.
I know it sounds a little over the top, right? But this is a real thing. That glass of grapefruit juice you might have with breakfast, for some people on certain medications, it can actually block their body's ability to process a drug, pushing the dose up to toxic levels. It's a perfect everyday example of what we're talking about. Now look, the point of this isn't to make you afraid of your own medicine cabinet. Not at all. It's the opposite. It's about pulling back the curtain and giving you the knowledge you need to stay safe. We're going to break all this down so it's super clear, putting you back in the driver's seat of your health. All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. We've got it broken down into 5 main areas. First, we'll look at the accidental overdose effect, when a drug becomes way too strong. Then we'll flip that and talk about how some meds get completely canceled out. After that, we'll cover the serious stuff, dangerous bleeding risks, alarms for your heart and blood pressure, and finally, some of those sneaky system shocks you might never even think about. Okay, let's jump right into section 1, the accidental overdose effect. This is a weird one because the interaction isn't creating some new, bizarre side effect. Instead, it's taking the medication you're already on and cranking the volume up to 11, pushing it right into a dangerous zone. So how on earth does that happen? Well, it all comes down to something called enzyme inhibition. The easiest way to think about this is to imagine your body has a dedicated cleanup crew. These are your enzymes. Their job is to break down drugs and get them out of your system. But what happens if something comes along and blocks that cleanup crew? The drug just builds up and up to toxic levels because it literally has nowhere to go. And this is exactly where our grapefruit juice example comes back into play. There are these things in grapefruit juice called furanocoumarins. Fancy word, I know, but what they do is stop the cleanup crew, those enzymes, from breaking down certain statin medications. The result? Way higher levels of the statin in your blood, which seriously ups the risk of nasty side effects like severe muscle pain. And it's not just grapefruit. The same thing can happen with certain common antibiotics too.
So a drug getting too powerful is obviously a huge problem. But believe it or not, the complete opposite can be just as bad. What happens when an interaction makes your medicine do absolutely nothing?
And that brings us to our second section, canceling your medication. This is all about those interactions that basically sabotage your treatment, making a critical medicine totally useless.
The mechanism here is often surprisingly simple. Here's what's supposed to happen. You take a pill, your body absorbs it, it goes off and does its job. Simple. But with these interactions, another substance just gets in the way. It can physically block the drug from being absorbed or just plain neutralize it before it even has a chance.
A classic example of this is something called multivalent ions. Don't worry about the term, just think of the calcium in milk or in your antacids or the iron in a supplement. These minerals can literally latch onto certain medications right in your gut, forming a clump that's too big to get absorbed. This is a massive problem for crucial drugs like thyroid meds or certain antibiotics. It's why your pharmacist is so specific about taking some pills an hour before or 2 hours after a meal. Okay, on to our third big topic, and this one involves a concept I like to call risk stacking. This is when you take a few different drugs that all happen to share a similar side effect. By themselves, the risk might be small, but together, that risk can multiply into something really dangerous. And the textbook case for this is the risk of bleeding. Just look at how this risk can build up. Let's say you take a common pain reliever like ibuprofen. Okay, there's a small bleeding risk there. Now, maybe your doctor adds a prescription anticoagulant, something like warfarin. The risk just went up a lot. But then, say you're also taking an SSRI antidepressant, which also affects bleeding. Suddenly, you've stacked these risks on top of each other and created a situation with a severe chance of a major bleed. Each drug is another brick in a very unstable wall. And you really need to know that this isn't just about drugs labeled blood thinners. Things like corticosteroids, when taken with NSAIDs, can seriously increase the risk of stomach bleeding. Even some common antibiotics can mess with your body's ability to clot blood, which can make a drug like warfarin suddenly way more potent and way more dangerous. All right, now we're getting into some of the most serious interactions out there, the ones that directly impact your heart and your blood pressure. When these drugs are combined improperly, they can cause sudden, really scary changes to your whole cardiovascular system.
This chart shows 3 really high-stakes scenarios. First up, mixing nitrates, which are for chest pain, with PDE5 inhibitors, think erectile dysfunction drugs, this combo can cause a catastrophic, life-threatening drop in blood pressure. Second, combining two very common types of heart meds, beta blockers and calcium channel blockers. Each one slows the heart a bit, but together they can suppress it so much that you risk heart failure. And finally, there are a ton of different drugs, from antibiotics to antidepressants, that can slightly mess with your heart's electrical rhythm. Combine two or more of them, and you massively increase the risk of a dangerous arrhythmia or irregular heartbeat.
Okay, for our last section, we're going to look at interactions that are maybe a little more subtle, but believe me, they are no less dangerous. I call these hidden system shocks because they happen when drug combinations throw your body's delicate internal chemistry, like your electrolytes, completely out of balance.
Potassium is the perfect example. Your body needs to keep the amount of potassium in your blood in a super narrow, perfect range for your heart and muscles to work right. While some drugs, like ACE inhibitors for blood pressure, can make you hang on to potassium. Add a potassium supplement, or even certain antibiotics on top of that, and your levels can spike to dangerously high levels. But the opposite is also true. Diuretics, or water pills, can make you lose potassium. If you're also on a heart drug like digoxin, those low potassium levels can make the digoxin become toxic.
And please don't think this is some rare, obscure issue. This number, 4+, represents at least 4 major categories of drugs that literally millions of us take every single day. We're talking about common blood pressure pills, diuretics, steroids, and asthma inhalers. Any of these has the potential to throw that vital potassium balance out of whack when mixed with the wrong thing.
So, after hearing all of that, I get it. It might be easy to feel a little overwhelmed. But I want to be really clear. The goal here is not to create fear. It's to foster vigilance. It's to empower you with the knowledge to be an active, informed participant in your own health.
And you can do that with this super simple 3-step safety plan. Step 1, make a list of everything you take. And I mean everything. Prescriptions, over-the-counter stuff, vitamins, that herbal supplement you bought online, all of it. Step 2, share that complete list with your doctor and pharmacist at every single visit. Don't assume they know. And step 3, before you start any new over-the-counter product, just take a minute and ask your pharmacist if it's okay with everything else you're on.
Look, this knowledge is power. It gives you the ability to ask smarter questions and to really take control. So I'll leave you with a question to think about. Now that you know all this, what's the very first thing you're going to ask your doctor or pharmacist the next time you see them?